Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here. It's right on the Monday Night Football Showdown slate between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports sites. I do want to say thank you guys again for all support. For all those who came out to support the Twitch stream today, streamed with my friend Connor Jones. So if you guys checked out that stream today, we went for about 2 hours. Hope you enjoyed it. The week 3 overview for me, I'll go over it in my early look for week 4, go over my lineup, but it was pretty solid. Won a majority of my cash games, just missing GPP, so about a break even, profited a little bit for me, but we'll talk about more about that in my look back in my early look video for week 4. Also, if you guys cannot watch the YouTube videos, I do upload on Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below, which is at the DK DFS show. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So really excited to talk about this one. This should be one of the best games of the year. Chiefs, Ravens. It's $1 million to first 2 millionaire maker showdown slate. So yeah, this one it's going to be fun to break down. Should be a ton of points scored in this one. Both quarterbacks have rushing upside. All right, before we get into the breakdown, let's first take a look at the Vegas odds, and then we can take a look at some snap counts for both teams to kind of see where things are playing out, and then we can get to the player-by-player breakdown. So, Chiefs, Ravens, it's a 55 over-under. Ravens are currently 3.5-point favorites. So, let's review the snap counts here. We'll go over from week 2, the most recent week. You guys can look back for week 1 if you want to. I just use Football Outsiders for these stats for snap counts. So the Ravens situation, running back at least, it's kind of a headache, right? Three-headed monster there with Ingram, with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins. Not great for DFS. I guess we'll talk about more in the breakdown, but it's hard to really trust one of those Ravens running backs when it literally is a three-headed monster. As far as the wide receiver situation go, it's a little bit more clear, right? There's the 3 main wide receivers, and they get the majority of the work, right? Boykin, Brown, Willie Snead, all hovering around the 60 to 75% range. All 3 are in play in this slate. So that's really it for wide receiver in the Ravens. Let's talk about their tight ends. So they do run 2 tight ends a lot here with Boyle and Mark Andrews. Andrews is clearly, obviously, the better pass-catching tight end. But Boyle's, at least in consideration because he's out there a bunch, but more out there for his blocking ability. As far as Kansas City and the running back situation, CEH or Clyde Edwards-Helaire is their lead back. He played on 62% of the snaps last game, but they did incorporate Darwin Thompson and Darrell Williams a bit too. So, you can feel a little bit more comfortable with CEH. Like he's probably the running back you have the most confidence in because of he's probably going to get the most touches. Whereas the Ravens, you're the three-headed monster, and then Thompson, Williams probably aren't going to get a ton of work unless something does happen to CEH. Wide receiver situation for the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill is going to play most of the game. He played 90% of the snaps last game. Watkins was a little banged up. He is questionable, but he is practicing, so I think he's going to give it a go. It was about 60% for all 3 of Hardman, Robinson, and Watkins. I think Watkins snaps probably do go up this game if he is available. And then Hardman, Robinson kind of fight for that number 3 role, but both should get a decent amount of playing time as well. Pringle did get a few snaps, but really that's just a dart throw on this slate. Tight end situation, Kelsey, like Hill, going to play most of the game, almost 100% of the snaps, 96%. Kaiser played on 14%, so again, nothing more than a dart throw there. But yeah, that's really the look of the snap counts. So let's get into the player-by-player breakdown. We'll talk about it for flex, and then at the end, I'll kind of go over where I'm looking for captain. But got to start with the 2 quarterbacks here in Lamar Jackson, in Patrick Mahomes. I always talk about in the showdown slates. Normally the GPP winning lineup has either a running back or a wide receiver in it, but this is a different situation, right? We have quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks have huge rushing upside, and both just have huge upside in general, right? 2 of the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now, in Lamar Jackson, in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, personally, the way that I'm going about this slate, I'm just playing both quarterbacks and moving on. I don't necessarily think both are must plays because you are going to have to sacrifice a lot to get him in there, right? Lamar's at 13K, Patrick Mahomes is at 12K, but there are cheaper options down below that I think you can do it, and that's the direction that I'm going. I'm just going to jam in the two quarterbacks because both just have that rushing upside, both have just enormous upside in general. So really gotta like both quarterbacks. That's not going to be a contrarian take at all. Clearly, like both are going to be super super popular, even at their respective prices. But it's just the floor is super super high. For a cash game setting, if you're playing head-to-heads, just play both quarterbacks, right? Just play both quarterbacks and move on. Simple. So who do I prefer with Lamar versus Mahomes? It's a tough one. Again, both have rushing upside. I think I would just slightly prefer Lamar Jackson because I like the matchup a little bit better for him versus Mahomes going up against, I think the Ravens defense is a little bit better than the Chiefs, but really, that's not a strong take, right? And like I said, I am playing both quarterbacks. So Lamar Jackson, again, he's a guy who can get it done through the air and the ground, averaging about 50 yards in the ground so far this season. Definitely has upside. He's gone for over 100 yards a couple times last year. He has that potential. Mahomes definitely can go for like 50 yards in the ground. He went for 6 rushes, 50 yards on the ground last game. So yeah, really, really do like both quarterbacks. And I think for a cash game, for a head-to-head setting, you play both of them. Let's now move on to, I guess their main weapons here for each team. So we have Kelsey at the top at 10, Tyreek Hill at 9-2. My breakdown of these guys is I think Kelsey has the slightly higher floor, whereas Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, has a little bit higher of a ceiling. So both are certainly in play here. Kelsey at 10, Tyreek Hill at 9-2. But if you're going to play both quarterbacks, they're going to be tricky to get in, right? Or you could take the shot and maybe fade one quarterback. It's a risky approach, but like I said, I don't think both quarterbacks are must plays because of their respective prices. I'm going to play both, but I don't necessarily think you have to play both. But yeah, with Kelsey versus Hill, like I said, I think that the floor is a little bit higher on Kelsey, whereas the ceiling might be a little bit higher on Hill. But you can't go wrong with either. It's just kind of the salaries, right? 10K, 9.2K. We're not giving these guys at great discounts, and if you're playing both quarterbacks, it's going to make it tricky to get to one of these guys. So, like the upside in both, it's just a price point thing. Can you fit them in there with both quarterbacks? Well, let's just say we throw Lamar, we throw Mahomes in there, and we throw Travis Kelce. You can still do it, right? 5K remaining. You still have to place them on the captain spot, but it's at least doable. All right, so talk about the main targets there for the Chiefs with Kelce, with Hill. Right? They're both going to play basically the whole game. You can't go wrong with either. It's just what fits with your roster construction. We have Hollywood Brown at 8-4, so he has that big play upside. But for me, I would probably feel a little bit more comfortable getting to Tyreek Hill for more, or for Kelce a little bit more. He's been solid, 5 catches first couple of games, and like I said, he does have that big play upside. But when he's really close to Hill and Kelce and Price, I just feel a little bit more comfortable with those two guys. But that doesn't make Hollywood Brown out of play. I still think he's playable at this price. For me, though, I think it's just a more contrarian option. The upside is through the roof, but I think I feel a little bit more comfortable with some of the cheaper Ravens receivers who we'll get to in a bit. So, not saying Marquise Hollywood Brown's out of play. Big play upside is 100% there, but if I was going to spend up on like a main target here other than a quarterback, I think I'd feel a little more comfortable going to Hill, going to Travis Kelce. That's Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 7-8. He's the running back you can feel the most comfortable with just because he should get a majority of the work. He had 6 catches and 8 targets in a game. They were playing from behind a bit there, which is good to see. Right? He's a guy that can utilize both on the ground and through the air. We saw on the ground week 1. We saw in the air week 2. So, sure, the matchup isn't amazing. Ravens defense has been pretty solid, but doesn't worry me too much. He is, he's going to be a guy that probably gets 60 to 70% of the running back work. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a safer option. Does he have that big play upside with Kelce and with Hill? I think I like the upside a little bit more on those guys. But again, CH can definitely break a long one, right? It's in the cards, right? If they get down, near the goal line, he probably will get the work too. So I don't have an issue with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's definitely the safest running back play on the slate. But 7-8, not really getting him an amazing discount either. And I think I do like the upside a little bit more with Hill with Kelce. But Quarterbacks, running backs, they do have the highest floor. So if you're just a guy going for the floor for the cash games, you probably play both quarterbacks and maybe a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So Mark Ingram is going to be a fade for me at 6'8". I just don't. He's super touchdown dependent, and with it being a three-headed monster, like all three running backs are going to be incorporated. Ingram, sure, he can get 10 to 15 carries, but that's probably at most what he's going to get. He's not really going to utilize a whole lot through the air either. Like it doesn't make sense for me to get to Mark Ingram over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Edwards-Helaire is going to be, they're not really their workhorse, but he's going to be out there majority of the game, again, 60 to 70%, I would say. Whereas Ingram's going to get like 30 to 40% of snaps. So when they're at a similar price, I'm just going to give the edge to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I feel more comfortable with him. And like I said, he will get a little bit more involved in the pass game, whereas Ingram not so much. So is Ingram out of play? No. Again, a contrarian option. He's not someone I'm going to get to at his price. If he was like in the 4K range, he would be more viable. But 6'8" is just too much for me to pay for Mark Ingram. Then they have the backup quarterbacks listed on here. J.K. Dobbins at 5'6" is going to be another stay away for me. I'm just not, we're not getting any of these Ravens running backs at discounts. And Lamar is going to keep it himself a lot too. So I don't want to play a running back in a committee in a three-headed monster when they're priced up, right? We're not getting discounts on these guys. If they were at playable, like 3 to 4K range, they would be more playable. But 5'6" for J.K. Dobbins and 6'8" for Mark Ingram, like personally, as a one lineup guy, I just can't do it. Now, sure, you're making 150 lineups. Of course you can get exposure. But for me, I think the Ravens running backs, at least the top two guys, are just contrarian plays on this slate. Now, Sammy Watkins, this is something to monitor. He was listed as questionable with the concussion neck injury. He did practice, though, and he practiced in full capacity, so that gives me confidence that he's going to play. He is very, very up and down, boom or bust. We saw it last year with the big game one. We kind of saw it this year with the big game one, right? So does it just go downhill for Sammy Watkins like it did last year? Well, again, that's what we saw last year. We saw the big game one, and then it was just all downhill for Sammy. But I think he does get a majority of the snaps. I would say 70-ish% of the snaps. Certainly makes him in play. He's got Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. I think he's a fine option. He's a little bit riskier. Obviously dealing with an injury, but looks like he's going to be good to go. So I think Sammy Watkins is certainly playable here at that price. Mecole Hardman does take a slight hit with Sammy Watkins playing. I think the snaps do go down for him. By how much, though, is the question. They got him. They have Demarcus Robinson, I think, that kind of fight for that number 3 role. I would say both probably hover around the 50% snap rate, like around there. But yeah, Hardman hasn't really done a whole lot, only 1 and 2 catches the first couple of weeks, but we have seen big games from him last year. He still has that big play upside, and 4.6K is a playable price point. So I do think he's a slightly riskier option as well, but he should get again, if I had to guess, I would say 50-ish% of the snaps. Certainly makes him in play here at 4.6. Willie Snead. So talk about Hollywood Brown, how I think he's slightly more of a contrarian play because we have these cheap Ravens receivers. Willie Snead at 4.4 is going to get a majority of the work. He played on about over 60% of the snaps. And sure, he doesn't have that type of upside as Hollywood Brown, but you're also getting him at a huge discount here at 4.4. So if you're a guy like me that's going to play both quarterbacks, you're going to need some cheaper options. A guy like Willie Snead is definitely someone I'm interested in because the snap should be there. He's a guy that I don't really know if he has that huge big play upside in him, but I don't think he's necessarily going to kill me either at this price. So Willie Snead is someone I'm certainly looking to as a value option. The 2 kickers are viable, especially in a game like this where there should be a ton of points scored too. Both are good kickers too. In Tucker and Buckner, both are 2 of the top kickers in the league in my opinion. So I think both kickers are playable here. Really, they have the upside to go for 15 or so. And there should be a ton of points scored in this one, like I said. So I do kind of like both kickers here. Would I play both in a GPP lineup? Probably not. But I think getting to 1 kicker in your lineup is not a bad idea at all. So definitely considering the kickers here in a game, there should be a ton of points scored. As far as the defenses, so I'm not going to get to him. I know the Ravens have been really good defensively, but this is just a different matchup here against the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Chargers did kind of hold them in check, but I'm not banking on that again here for the Ravens. So I'm going to pass on the defenses. If you want to pick a defense, the Ravens would be the defense I would feel a little bit more comfortable with. But still, I don't know if I'm going to get to them in a game that should be a shootout here. Miles Boykin, another cheap option that I like. 4 and 5 targets the first couple of weeks is good to see. Also a guy that played in about 70% of the snaps. He does have the big play upside too, and 3.4K is a very, very fair price. So I have interest in these cheap receivers. Boykin, Snead, Hardman, Sammy Watkins. We'll get to, I guess we can talk about Demarcus Robinson now at 3K. 6 and 4 targets the first couple games. Another guy that should get probably at least 50% or so of the snaps. Price is very fair. So these are the cheap guys I'm considering. Again, if you're going to follow my lead and play both quarterbacks, there's definitely some good cheap options down here. Again, the defenses I'm probably going to stay away from. If you could make me pick, I would go the Ravens, but I'm not going to prioritize either. The Kansas City running backs in Williams and in Darwin Thompson are just more contrarian options just because of the snap count. So they're not going to play a ton unless something happens to CEH. So probably not going to get to him. If it wasn't to play a cheap Kansas City back, I think I would go Darwin Thompson. I think I like upset a little bit more on him versus Darrell Williams. But again, they're nothing really more than a super, super risky dart throw on the slate. So if you're making like one lineup, it's hard to really recommend those guys with confidence. Obviously, you're making multiple lineups, you can get a little bit of exposure to these guys. Gus Edwards at 1.6, like he's the guy that I would feel the most comfortable with for the Ravens running back situation, right? Because it should be split pretty evenly. And I think he gets a decent amount of work. Did have 10 carries, 73 yards. Now, sure, right, that game got a little bit out of hand, so maybe he got a little bit more work because of that. But if I was going to play one of these Baltimore Ravens running backs, I think I would just take the shot at Edwards and hope he gets still a decent amount of work. But I don't think I'm going to really get to any of them for the reason of no one's going to see a ton of work. And like I said, Lamar Jackson will keep it himself a lot too. And yeah, so Nick Boyle's at $800, and he's more out there for his blocking, but 3 and 1 target the first couple weeks. Like he's a guy that all you need is just for him to catch a touchdown. That's it. So don't rule out Nick Boyle, right? He is someone that played a ton. Right, if you go to Baltimore and their tight ends, 78% of the snaps. So he's going to be out there for most of the game. All you need is for him to catch like one touchdown. That's it. So Boyle is a risky play, but he's playable at a price below $1,000. I'm not going to get to Pringle. Devin Duvernay, I probably mispronounced that. He's gotten a little bit of work for Baltimore, but not enough for me to consider him either. Kaiser's the backup tight end for Kansas City, but it's not like he played at only like 14% of the snaps. So that's really it for the running back situation. Like Justice Hill is, I don't know if he's going to be on the active roster. We'll see. I mean, he hasn't got any work yet. He was dealing with an injury, but not confident he would play either. Sherman is their fullback for Kansas City. Did have one rushing attempt. Again, maybe he gets a goal line carry, but that's really it for the player-by-player breakdown for this for the Showdown site. So what am I thinking for captain? Well, I like getting to one of those quarterbacks in the captain spot. I don't think you necessarily have to, but that's the direction that I'm leaning. So like getting to Lamar or Mahomes. I told you guys I'm playing both. So if I play Lamar in the captain spot, I'm probably going to try to get at least one of his receivers. I don't think you have to play, normally if I play quarterback in the captain spot, I'll try to get at least 2. But like I said, Lamar will keep it himself a lot. So it's a little bit different situation. I don't necessarily think you have to play 2 receivers, but I probably will try to play at least one Baltimore receiver. So whether it be Hollywood Brown or Andrews or Snead or Miles Boykin, right? So make sure you get a little bit of correlation. As far as if I was going to play Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot, I think I would go 2 of the Chiefs receivers because, sure, he's a guy that can get it done on the ground too, but Lamar will focus more on the ground. Mahomes can will focus a little bit more through the air. So I'd probably, if I was playing Mahomes in the captain spot, I think I would try to get 2 of his receivers. So if you want to spend up in either Hill or Kelsey or go down to some cheaper options, which are viable, right? Watkins, Hardman, Robinson, all three of those cheap receivers are certainly in play. So that's the direction I'm thinking for the quarterbacks. You can definitely go. So you don't have to play quarterback in the captain spot, right? The big play upside in Tyreek Hill, Hollywood Brown, I think goes a little bit lower owned, but like I said, he's got that big play ability as well. You could go for like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire who should get a majority of the snaps there for Kansas City. Or if you want to get a little bit different, risky, maybe take a shot in one of these cheap receivers, right? And then if you do that, it does open up more for you to get, probably another star in your lineup. So let's just say we throw, I don't know, Miles Boykin in the captain spot, right? So if I was going to do that, I told you guys I'm going to play both quarterbacks in Lamar and Mahomes. Then you have $6K remaining. You can probably get one more of these main guys in your lineup if you want to do that. So say you want to get Tyreek Hill in there. It's certainly doable, right? So that is always a build you can consider. It's risky, but does have upside if you can land correctly on the right captain, the right receiver that has that type of upside. But I think the safe approach and the way that I'm going to go is probably one of those quarterbacks in the captain spot. And I told you guys I am going to play both quarterbacks on a slate like this. But I think that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So if you have enjoyed the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. I will be live streaming for this one 30 minutes before lock on my YouTube channel, so be sure to check out the live stream, guys. I will go over everything and also answer any questions you guys have at the end. Like I said, really excited for this game. Chiefs, Ravens, $1 million maker as well. So thanks again, guys, for checking out the video, and I will see you all in the live stream tomorrow.